Blood streamed down my temple, a sharp sting spreading as Officer Nathan Powell pinned me against his cruiser, the metal bruising my 68-year-old frame. Cuffs cut into my wrists, too tight, my hands tingling, but I, Lena Carter, Army veteran of 22 years, stared back, unbowed. "You picked the wrong day, Grandma," Powell taunted, his charming smile chilling, a hatred I'd known since 1960s Virginia, when I was called "girl" in uniform. My PSYOPs training kept me calm, but my heart roared. 30 minutes from now, FBI agents would storm this Philadelphia station, and Powell's world would crack. Right now, it was just me, a terrified teen, and a crowd filming a battle I'd fought my whole life. This morning, I'd been sipping coffee on a bench in Fairmount Park, my army cap tilted, its star faded but fierce, my gray braids tucked beneath. 3 times a week, I came here, not just for peace but to run Echoes of Equity, a theater project where Philly kids like Malik Evans, 15, turn stories of injustice into plays. Malik, wiry in a yellow hoodie, was rollerblading nearby, his laugh bright until Powell's cruiser screeched up, 35 yards away. Powell, all charm and menace, zeroed in, ignoring white kids skating the same path. "No blades here, kid," he barked, hand hovering near his belt, though no rule banned rollerblading in my 10 years visiting. Malik stopped, hands up, voice shaking, "Sorry, sir, I didn't know." Powell loomed, demanding ID, his tone silencing nearby picnickers. I saw Malik's fear, a twin to mine at 15, stopped for loitering at a bus stop. My coffee spilled, and I crossed 20 feet, my cane tapping, heart pounding with a soldier's duty. "Officer, there's no belating ban," I said, voice steady as in Vietnam briefings. "Kids use this path daily." Powell's smile vanished, his eyes cold. "Stay out of it," he hissed, venom raw. I stood firm, 4 feet back, cane grounded. "I'm just clarifying. The boy's no threat." Malik's gaze met mine, desperate. Powell's jaw clenched, a nervous tick betraying his cool. "ID, now," he snapped, turning on me. I handed over my license, slow, saying, "Lena Carter, Army veteran, 22 years." He snatched it, scoffing, "Veteran? You're just trouble." He leaned close, muttering, "You fit a suspect." The lie echoed stops from Selma to Saigon, where I'd faced slurs in mess halls. A bystander, Javier Ruiz, a TikTok influencer, started filming, his video hitting 2,500 views in seconds. Others joined, murmuring, "This ain't fair." Powell grabbed my arm, twisting until I winced, and barked, "Hands behind you." Cuffs clamped on, pain flaring, my wrists burning. He slammed me against the cruiser, my temple splitting, a 1-inch gash bleeding onto my jacket. "These cuffs hurt," I said, voice even. "Quit whining," he sneered, "you people always do." The racial jab stung, crowd gasping, Javier's TikTok soaring to 25,000 views, #PhillyStans trending. My mind raced, not to panic but to strategy. I'd shaped minds in PSYOPs, stopped a 1970s coup plot, held a Nexus clearance, but here, I was a target. I pressed my bracelet, 3 pulses, a hold. A signal tied to secrets that could topple systems. Powell wasn't just one cop, he was a dynasty's heir, raised by a father who buried 1960s protest complaints, his 35 falsified reports, disabled body cam audio, planted items, shielded by a loyal precinct. His charm hid a belief in order over justice, but his tick, a twitch under stress, hinted at fear. Javier's video, the crowd's phones, were my first strike. I caught his eye, nodding to keep filming, my silent oath to expose this. Malik backed away, safe but trembling, his blades forgotten. As Powell shoved me into the cruiser, slamming the door, I sat, blood dripping, counting, 30 minutes until my signal hit. Powell slid in, smirking in the rearview, his tick flickering. Smiling, "Huh," he taunted, arrogance masking unease. I stayed silent, thinking of Malik's future, my theater kids, the girl I was, dodging taunts in Richmond. This was their fight too. Powell's world, built on lies, was cracking. He didn't know it yet, but I did. For every American who's raged at injustice online, who's stood for fairness, this is your spark. I was cuffed, but I'd summoned a reckoning, one that'd shake Philly to its core. The clock ticked, and I was ready. Blood crusted on my cheek, the 1-inch gash throbbing as I sat cuffed to a metal bench in the 9th District Police Station, 3 miles from Fairmount Park. The fluorescent lights buzzed, casting harsh shadows on Officer Nathan Powell's smug face as he tossed my wallet and Army ID onto his desk, crowing, "Got a loudmouth here." At 68, my wrists ached from cuffs tightened beyond protocol, but my PSYOPs training kept my mind sharp, my resolve fiercer than ever. I'm Lena Carter, 22 years an Army veteran, a woman who'd shaped minds in Vietnam and stopped a 1970s coup plot, now just a black elder in Powell's trap. Yet my bracelet signal, 3 pulses sent 25 minutes ago, had triggered Code Nexus, a classified protocol for assets like me, and I knew the storm was coming. The station hummed with morning chaos, phones ringing, officers shuffling papers, some glancing at my bloodied face with unease, others ignoring me. Powell's charm, that polished smile he flashed to colleagues, hid a hatred I'd seen in his park taunts, a hatred rooted in his father's legacy, a cop who buried 1960s civil rights complaints. His tick, a twitching eyelid, betrayed nerves as he typed a report, likely lies about my resistance. I caught Lieutenant Elena Torres's eye, her frown deepening as she approached Powell. "Why is she bleeding?" she asked, voice tight. "Resisted," Powell lied, shrugging, "interfered at the park, got mouthy." Torres's skepticism flickered, but Powell waved her off, slipping my ID, with its hidden security chips, into his drawer, a move to bury evidence, like the 35 falsified reports I'd later learn he'd crafted. My thoughts churned, not on Payne but on Malik Evans, the 15-year-old I'd defended, his fear a mirror of my own youth, stopped for looking wrong, in Virginia. I thought of Aisha, his 20-year-old sister, who'd once shared her own run-in with Powell at a Roots of Equity rehearsal, her voice shaking as she described his suspect lie. Their stories, woven into my theater project, fueled me now. Suddenly, the station's lights flickered, computers freezing with security override alerts. My heart quickened, Code Nexus was early, 5 minutes ahead. 3 black SUVs screeched into the lot, doors slamming as FBI agents in crisp suits stormed in. Special Agent Marcus Hayes, the lead, barked, badge flashing, "We're here for Lena Carter." The desk sergeant stammered, "I'll get Chief Alvarez," but Hayes cut him off, "He's expecting us." "Where is she?" All eyes turned to me, still cuffed, my calm a silent challenge. Chief Miguel Alvarez emerged, phone buzzing with calls from the Pentagon and DOJ, his face paling as Torres handed him my ID. "This isn't standard," she whispered, noting its covert markers. My file, partially declassified, painted a hero. I'd thwarted a 1970s domestic attack, saving 1,500 lives, and advised 3 presidents, my Nexus clearance a shadow over their precinct. Powell, oblivious, smirked, but his tick twitched faster as Javier Ruiz's TikTok, now at 100,000 views, played on a rookie's phone, showing my compliance, not resistance. Officer Elena Torres, a quiet ally, slipped Agent Hayes a flash drive. Powell's body cam audio was off, she whispered, risking her badge. I recorded him disabling it. Her courage, born of guilt over ignored complaints, echoed my own defiance in 68, facing racist sergeants. Outside, 200 protesters chanted, "Philly stands," their signs fueled by Javier's video, now trending nationwide. News vans lined the street, Philly's media frenzy echoing 2020's BLM marches. Aisha, I'd learn, had launched a podcast, Unheard Philly, airing Malik's story, its first episode hitting 10,000 downloads in hours. Her voice, raw and fierce, called out Powell's pattern, a spark for the 25 to 55-year-olds who'd rallied for George Floyd. Inside, Powell's charm cracked as Hayes approached him. "Your report's inconsistent," Hayes said, holding Javier's video. Powell's eyelid twitched, his voice smooth but strained. "She swung at me." The lie crumbled as Torres's recording played, capturing Powell's taunt, "You people never learn." My chest tightened, not from cuffs but from the weight of, "you people," a phrase I'd heard from Mississippi to military bases. I thought of my theater kids, acting out stories of bias, their courage now my strength. Alvarez, cornered, admitted to Hayes, I didn't know her status. But I wasn't just a status, I was a woman who'd faced slurs in uniform, who'd taught kids like Malik to dream. Hayes uncuffed me, the medals release a small victory, but Powell's glare burned, his pride wounded. "This isn't over," he muttered, his tic frantic. I met his gaze, my voice low, "It's just begun." My mind flashed to Powell's father, whose shadow protected him, his 35 reports, disabled audio, fake suspects, buried by a loyal system. But Code Nexus was rewriting that system, its reach exposing his allies, 2 sergeants already flagged for similar lies. Torres, now isolated by colleagues, handed me a bandage for my gash. "You didn't deserve this," she said, guilt in her eyes. I nodded, thinking of her recording, a crack in the precinct's wall. Aisha's podcast played on a protester's phone outside, her words, "Malik's not alone," stirring hope. I requested to speak to Malik, ensuring his safety, my mentorship a lifeline. His sister's activism, Javier's video, Torres's risk, they were my army now. The station's radios crackled, doors locked in diagnostic mode, signs of Nexus's grip. Powell, sensing trouble, leaned toward a colleague, whispering, "She's nobody." But his tic betrayed him, fear seeping through his charm. I thought of 1969, briefing generals who doubted my rank, their bias a mirror to Powell's. My signal had reached D.C., but justice wasn't just for me, it was for Malik, Aisha, every kid stopped for their skin. Hayes showed Alvarez my file, his voice firm, "She's consulted for the Joint Chiefs." Alvarez sank into a chair, muttering, "Lord help us." The protesters' chants grew louder, 300 strong, their unity a balm for the 25 to 55-year-olds who'd marched or tweeted for change. Aisha's podcast announced a rally, her call, "Stand for Lena." Drawing 500 RSVPs, Javier, outside, posted a new TikTok, urging Philly to rewrite justice, hitting 200,000 views. My gash throbbed, but my spirit soared. Powell's world, built on lies, was unraveling, his charm useless against Nexus's truth. I thought of my theater, where Malik played a teen facing bias, his lines now real. Torres offered water, her hands shaking, her choice to record Powell a rebellion against years of silence. I sipped, my mind on the kids I'd taught, their stories now weapons. Hayes briefed his team, "We've got 20 complaints matching Powell's MO." The number stung, 20 lives like Malik's, dismissed. Powell, overhearing, scoffed, but his tic screamed guilt. His father's legacy, I'd learn, taught him black folks were chaos to control, a belief fueling his audio tricks, his fake reports. But I'd faced worse, colonels who called me unfit, missions where my skin was a target. This was my mission now. The station's lights dimmed, Nexus tightening its hold. I stood, bloodied but unbroken, as Hayes said, "We're taking Powell's badge." His smile faded, his tic wild, the first crack in his dynasty. For every American who's raged at a viral video, who's prayed for justice, this is your fight. I'd sparked a reckoning, and Philly would never be the same. The clock stopped, and I was ready. The bandage on my temple itched, the 1-inch gash beneath it a dull ache as I sat in a federal interview room, 2 miles from the 9th District Station, my wrist still raw from cuffs now gone. At 68, my Army PSYOPs training kept my voice steady as I recounted Malik Evans's fear in Fairmount Park, but my heart churned for him, for Aisha, for every Philadelphian crushed by a system I'd vowed to fight. I'm Lena Carter, 22 years a veteran, a woman who decoded minds in Vietnam and stopped a 1970s plot, now facing a battle not in shadows but in Philly's streets. Code Nexus, triggered by my bracelet signal 36 hours ago, had torn open the station's secrets, revealing 108 civil rights violations over 6 years, 42 tied to Officer Nathan Powell's name. Agent Marcus Hayes listened, his pen pausing as I described Powell's taunt, "You people," a phrase that echoed 1960s slurs I'd faced in uniform. My Echoes of Equity theater kids, who'd staged stories of bias, were my strength now, their voices urging me to expose this rot. Hayes's team, in a command center buzzing with screens, mapped red dots across Philly's black neighborhoods, arrests spiking where developers I'd land for condos. Powell's stops, I learned, targeted areas like Brewerytown, inflating crime stats to justify crackdowns, a pattern my PSYOPs mind saw as economic warfare dressed as policing. My thoughts drifted to Malik, 15, whose rollerblading joy was stolen, and Aisha, 20, whose podcast, Unheard Philly, now had 50,000 downloads, her latest episode airing her mother's 2-year-old complaint against Powell, dismissed without review. At a rec center 4 miles away, I'd met Malik hours earlier, his eyes downcast as he whispered, "I thought you'd hate me for getting you hurt." I hugged him, my cane leaning against a chair, and said, "You're my courage, Malik. Your story's changing Philly." I proposed a youth summit through my theater project, inviting 75 teens to draft reform ideas, a vision to empower kids like him, who'd faced Powell's glare 3 times in a month. Aisha, there too, showed me her petition on change.org, Justice for Lena, with 15,000 signatures, calling for Powell's badge and systemic change. Her fire, born of watching Malik shrink under Powell's shadow, mirrored my own at 20, marching for voting rights. Outside, 500 protesters painted a mural across a broad street wall, "Philly stands," its colors, red, black, green, honoring lives like Malik's, a new symbol for the 25 to 55-year-olds who'd shared #PhillyStands on X. Javier Ruiz's TikTok, now at 500,000 views, had sparked this, his latest post urging Philly to paint truth. My chest swelled, but sorrow lingered for the 108 violations Hayes uncovered, each a story like Malik's, buried by a system Powell thrived in. His father's dynasty, I learned, had taught him black communities were problems to control, his 42 falsified reports, muted body cams, fake suspects, protected by Chief Miguel Alvarez's blind eye. Powell's charm, that smile he flashed at roll call, hit a cold pride, but his eyelid tick, I'd noticed, flared under scrutiny, a crack in his armor. At the rec center, Reverend Sarah Coleman, 62, handed Hayes 250 documented cases of harassment, her church's files detailing stops like Malik's, her voice breaking as she said, "We begged for help, but complaints vanished." Social worker Jamal Pierce, 38, added, "Kids here don't trust cops, they're occupiers, not protectors." His data showed 80% of Powell's stops targeted minorities without cause, a pattern my theater kids had scripted in plays, now painfully real. A new app, Philly Watch, launched by a local coder, hit 12,000 users, letting residents log police interactions, its map mirroring Hayes's, red dots bleeding across black Philly. My mind raced, seeing Powell not as one man but a cog in a machine, his arrests fueling developer profits, displacing families for lofts priced at $500,000. I told Hayes, Powell's stops aren't random, they're strategic, pushing folks out. He nodded, showing me recovered body cam footage, Powell planting a baggie on a teen, his audio off, a trick he'd used 15 times. The footage, aired on Unheard Philly, hit 100,000 downloads, Aisha's voice trembling as she named Powell's victims. My heart ached, thinking of my 1969 briefing, when a general dismissed my report for my tone, a bias Powell's system perfected. Back at the station, Lieutenant Elena Torres faced whispers of traitor for her flash drive, her recording of Powell's tampering now with Hayes. She'd told me, eyes wet, I saw 10 complaints ignored, I couldn't stay silent. Her guilt, born of years under Alvarez's pressure, echoed my own battles, pushing past doubt to act. Alvarez, cornered by Hayes, admitted, "I trusted Powell's reports, but Philly Watch data, splashed on NBC 10, showed a 5-to-1 arrest ratio for black versus white residents," his excuses crumbling. Powell, isolated in an interview room, maintained his charm, telling agent Lisa Tran, "I followed protocol." But his tic betrayed him as Tran played footage, his voice caught saying, "Keep them in line." His pride, tied to his father's badge, clashed with fear, his lies unraveling as 10 officers were flagged for similar reports. I requested to meet Aisha again, her petition now at 20,000 signatures, her rally planned for 1,000 at City Hall. "You're our voice," she said, handing me a script for her podcast, asking me to speak. I agreed, my theater training ready to amplify Malik's story, to name Powell's system. My thoughts turned to Powell's tic, his charm fading as Hayes's team found texts on a hidden app, Powell joking about cleaning black streets, linking him to 12 cops across Philly. The mural outside grew, 100 feet long, kids like Malik painting names of victims, a canvas of pain and hope. I saw 1970, facing a colonel who'd called me unfit, his bias a seed of Powell's world. Code Nexus uncovered more. Powell's stops aligned with a 2019 city plan to revitalize black areas, his promotions tied to arrest quotas. My summit, now with 100 teens, planned a mock trial of Powell's tactics, a stage for truth. Javier's new TikTok, a mural time-lapse, hit 1 million views, urging Philly to see the system. My gash throbbed, but my spirit burned, fueled by Aisha's fire, Malik's trust, Coleman's files. Powell's dynasty was cracking, his tic a signal of collapse. Torres, risking all, slipped me a note. More are speaking. Her courage, like my kids' plays, was a weapon. The rally's chant, "No more lies," reached me, 1,500 strong, their unity a beacon for Americans who've marched, tweeted, prayed for change. Aisha's podcast announced a mural unveiling, 2,000 RSVPs, her call, "Paint for Lena." Echoing. I stood, bloodied but unbowed, as Hayes said, Powell's linked to city deals. His charm was dust, his system exposed. For every heart racing at injustice, this is your fight. I'd sparked a fire, and Philly was ablaze. The truth was out, and I was ready. The ache in my temple had dulled, the 1-inch gash now a faint scar, but my heart carried a heavier weight as I sat across from Nathan Powell in a stark federal conference room, 5 miles from Philadelphia's 9th District Station. At 68, my Army PSYOPs training steadied my gaze, but my soul trembled, not with fear but with the burden of confronting a man whose hatred had cuffed me, bloodied me, and haunted kids like Malik Evans. I'm Lena Carter, 22 years a veteran, a woman who'd shaped minds in Vietnam and stopped a 1970s coup, now seeking not vengeance but truth in a city crying for justice. 3 days after Code Nexus exposed 108 civil rights violations, 42 tied to Powell, I'd requested this meeting, no recorders, just us, to understand the man behind the system I'd sworn to dismantle. Powell's charm, that polished smile he'd flashed to dodge 35 falsified reports, was gone, his eyelid tic frantic under fluorescent lights, his pride clashing with a fear I'd learned to read in covert ops. I followed orders, he muttered, avoiding my eyes, but I leaned forward, my cane resting beside me, and said, "Did orders tell you to mute your body cam, to call Malik a threat for rollerblading?" His jaw tightened, a flicker of doubt breaking his defiance, a crack I'd seen in soldiers facing their own flaws. My Echoes of Equity theater kids, whose plays of bias now echoed in Philly's streets, gave me courage to push deeper, to see Powell not just as a villain but as a product of a broken machine. I shared a memory from 1971, a scar on my arm from a white officer who'd refused my PSYOPs briefing, his slurs a mirror to Powell's, "You people. Bias blinds," I said, "but you can choose to see." Powell's tic flared, his voice low, "My dad said order matters more than feelings." His father, a cop who buried 1960s complaints, had shaped him, I'd learned, teaching him Black Philly was chaos to control, a belief fueling his planted evidence, his muted cams. Yet his doubt, sparked by my words, hinted at a man wrestling with a legacy he'd never questioned. Outside, Aisha Evans's rally had grown to 2,000 at City Hall, her "Justice for Lena" petition hitting 30,000 signatures, her podcast, Unheard Philly, now at 200,000 downloads, airing my voice from yesterday, naming Powell's system. Her fire, born of protecting Malik, drove me to meet Chief Miguel Alvarez, now suspended, and interim Chief Elena Torres, whose flash drive had cracked Powell's lies. In a federal office, I urged a consent decree. Mandate bias training, civilian oversight, and metrics for trust, not arrests. Torres, her guilt over ignored complaints raw, proposed a 60% diverse hiring goal and a 25% budget shift to community programs, her voice firm despite colleagues' glares. I launched Veterans for Justice, uniting 300 Philly vets to advocate reform, our first act, a Truth Circles series, weekly dialogues where 500 residents shared stories of bias, a new space for healing that drew 25 to 55-year-olds who'd marched or posted #PhillyStands. My theater kids, led by Malik, staged a public play at the Rec Center, Shadows of Justice, dramatizing Powell's stops, 1,000 attendees weeping as Malik played a teen cuffed for nothing, his courage a beacon. Javier Ruiz's TikTok of the play hit 2 million views, urging Philly to act, don't watch, his Philly Watch app now at 20,000 users, logging 300 bias stops in a week. My chest ached, not from scars but from Reverend Sarah Coleman's testimony at a federal panel, her 250 harassment cases now evidence, her voice shaking, Powell targeted our kids, and Alvarez looked away. Social worker Jamal Pierce's data, showing 85% of Powell's arrests hit minorities, fueled the decree, signed yesterday, mandating 100% body cam uptime and a civilian board I'd chair. Powell, in our meeting, admitted, I thought I was protecting order, his tick wild, his father's lessons crumbling as he faced Agent Marcus Hayes's evidence, texts joking about cleaning black streets, 15 officers linked. His pride, tied to a dynasty, clashed with shame, a reckoning I'd seen in soldiers after missions gone wrong. I said, accountability isn't punishment, it's a chance to grow. He nodded, barely, a first step, his charm useless against truth. At a community center, Powell joined a restorative justice program, facing 200 residents, his voice breaking, I was wrong to target kids like Malik. Half clapped, half hissed, mirroring the 25 to 55-year-olds who debated redemption on X. He'd mentor teens at the Rec Center, a path I'd pushed, believing change starts with facing pain. My thoughts drifted to 1969, a general's sneer at my rank, a bias Powell's system honed. Torres, now interim chief, uncovered a 2017 policy rewarding arrests in black areas, tied to developer funds, which she scrapped, earning 5,000 X likes. Aisha, at the play, hugged me, her petition a legal force, saying, you gave Malik hope. Her rally unveiled the Broad Street mural, now 150 feet, kids painting, no more lies, 3,000 attendees chanting. I saw Powell's tick, his doubt, as a sign, the system wasn't just his, but his role was key. Code Nexus found 10 supervisors tied to his texts, their promotions linked to quotas, a web my psyops mind mapped, bias wasn't random, it was profit. My summit, now 150 teens, planned a citywide Truth March, 5,000 RSVPs, Malik leading, his play a spark. Javier's new TikTok, a mural close-up, hit 3 million views, urging, join the march. My scar itched, but my spirit soared, fueled by Aisha's courage, Malik's growth, Torres's reform. Powell's dynasty was dust, his tick a confession. At a truth circle, 600 shared stories, a white cop admitting, I ignored Powell's lies. His voice, like my kids' play, was a weapon. The march's chant, truth now, reached me, 7,000 strong, their unity a fire for Americans who've rallied, tweeted, dreamed of change. Aisha's podcast announced a national petition, 50,000 signatures, her call, March with Lena. Echoing. I stood, scarred but unbroken, as Hayes said, Powell's facing charges. His smile was gone, his system collapsing. For every heart racing at injustice, this is your fight. I'd built a bridge from pain to change, and Philly was crossing it. The truth was ours, and I was ready. The summer sun warmed my scar, a faint 1-inch mark on my temple, as I stood at a podium in Fairmount Park, 6 months after Nathan Powell's cuffs drew blood and sparked a fire in Philadelphia. At 68, my heart sang with a hope I hadn't felt since my 22 years in Army PSYOPs, when I'd turned minds to save lives. I'm Lena Carter, a veteran who faced a racist system and triggered Code Nexus, exposing 108 civil rights violations in the 9th District. Now, as chair of the Civilian Oversight Board, I faced 7,000 Philadelphians at the Fairmount Unity Festival, their faces, black, brown, white, young, old, a mosaic of resilience for the 25 to 55-year-olds who'd marched, posted, and prayed for justice. A plaque near my bench read, Truth Men's, honoring the city we'd reshaped. My Echoes of Equity theater kids, led by Malik Evans, 15, opened the festival with Rise Up, a play for 2,500, Malik's voice bold as he portrayed a teen breaking free, his rollerblading in this 2,000-acre park now a symbol of freedom. The 9th District, once a fortress of bias, had changed, 100% body cam uptime, a 60% diverse recruit class, and a 40% drop in use of force incidents over 12 months, data glowing on festival screens, met with roars. Interim Chief Elena Torres, her eyes bright, announced at Neighbors First model, officers like Javier Ruiz, now a community sergeant, walked beats, laughing with kids, their trust score up 45% on the Philly Watch app, now at 60,000 users. My mind wandered to Malik, whose 250-teen summit had launched a Philly Youth Justice League, his eyes set on a 2027 city council run, his play inspiring a PBS doc, Philly's Heart, greenlit for 2026 with 1.5 million X shares. Aisha Evans, 20, gripped my hand, her Justice for Lena petition, now at 150,000 signatures, fueling a national Equity Now campaign, her podcast, Unheard Philly, at 600,000 downloads, its latest episode airing my City Hall speech to 5,000. Her courage, born of guarding Malik, echoed my 1969 stand against base segregation, now a national call. Nathan Powell, no longer a cop, stood quietly at the festival's edge, his suit simple, his eyelid tick faded, his anti-bias workshops reaching 500 officers and 2,500 residents at the rec center. I saw order, not people, he told a workshop, aired on ABC 7, crediting our talk, his mentoring of teens like Malik splitting Philly, half embraced him, half questioned, mirroring the 25 to 55-year-olds debating redemption online. His 42 violations led to a plea. Testimony, service, no jail, a path I'd backed, believing truth breeds growth. My Veterans for Justice, now 800 strong, planned a 2026 national summit, 12,000 RSVPs, my CNN speech, set for 25 million viewers, folded in my pocket, shaped by my theater kids' hope. The festival buzzed with hip-hop, cheesesteak trucks, and truth circles, 1,000 sharing stories, a Latino cop admitting, I hid Powell's lies, his tears a mirror to my 1971 fight against a racist colonel. Reverend Sarah Coleman prayed, her 250 harassment cases now policy, her words, justice is faith in action, stirring sobs. Social worker Jamal Pierce's data, showing a 55% drop in biased arrests, lit screens, his grin wide as kids tended a new, healing garden, in Fairmount, 300 plants for 108 victims, 6,000 visiting its opening. My heart soared, yet ached for Aisha, whose campaign pushed a Police Equity Act, 250,000 signatures, her ex-post trending with #EquityNow. Malik handed me a Philly Youth Radio flyer, his league's new station, 10,000 listeners, airing his play's script, his smile fearless. I thought of Powell's doubt, his workshops, a man reshaped, proof change is possible. Torres shared, I buried 12 complaints, her reform, 35% community funding, earning 12,000x likes. Javier's TikTok, a garden montage, hit 6 million views, urging, grow your Philly, his mentoring of 75 teens a legacy of his viral spark. My Summit's mock trial, aired on CBS 3, drew 3,000, kids condemning Powell's bias, their verdict a law's seed. The festival peaked with my CNN speech, live to 30 million, my voice clear, racism isn't one badge, it's a system we rewrite with courage. I named Aisha, Malik, Torres, Powell, their stories a spark, hashtag Lena Speaks hitting 2 million retweets. My PsyOps mind saw bias's roots, profit, fear, silence. Uprooted by Aisha's fire, whose mural, now 300 feet on Girard Avenue, drew 10,000 weekly, 8,000 at its festival close. Powell's workshops reached 15 cities, his words, I was wrong, shifting minds, a ripple I'd started. I recalled 1969, a colonel's sneer, a system I'd outlived. The Equity Act, near passage, cited my case, 500,000 signatures, Aisha's post, we're close. At 1 million likes. Malik's League, 600 teens, planned a 2026 march, 75,000 RSVPs, his council fund at 7,000 donors. Torres, now chief, cut biased arrests by 65%, Philly Watch data on NPR. I sat on my bench, watching Javier joke with kids, Malik belating, a world reborn. Aisha's radio announced a Global Equity Now Summit, 150,000 RSVPs, my keynote its heart. The garden bloomed, kids adding, Lena, in marigolds, 12,000 cheering. Reflecting, I saw my journey, from a bloodied arrest to a city's rebirth, as proof that courage, not power, breaks systems. I learned truth demands patience, change needs allies, and justice grows from shared pain. Bias isn't one act, it's a web, undone by voices like Malik's, Aisha's, even Powell's, remade. I'd faced hate in Virginia, in uniform, in Philly, but found hope in kids' plays, murals, gardens. If you were in a similar situation, with elements like society, race and prejudice, law and power, how would you approach it to achieve the best possible outcome? For every American who's raged, marched, dreamed, this is your moment. I lit a fire, and the nation burns bright. The future is ours, and I'm ready.